Thank you, Mike. I'm so blessed. Song says, it doesn't matter about the rest. Doesn't matter about what's going on around me. Doesn't matter about what I have. He says, when I have you, anybody in here glad about that? He says, when I have you, I know that I'm blessed. I know that I'm blessed. So for that, we're grateful to the God that we serve. We're grateful to the God of heaven who continues to do all things well. Continues to do all things well. And for that, we're so grateful. Happy Mother's Day. This is the time that we set aside to tell Mom, thank you. I tell mine, thank you every chance I get. We just celebrate moms today because God has designed them to be who they are. He's designed them to be what they are. And so we're grateful for the nurture that they provide. We're grateful for the guidance that they provide. We're grateful for just them being present. And I for one, know that I have a mom who listens. She doesn't always have anything to say, but sometimes she just listens, and that's what I need. And I'm grateful that my wife, man, I tell you, she's amazing. And she continues to wow me every single day with her patience, with the 9 little people that run around my house, who pour out my water, who pour out grits and candy, and who eat every snack in sight. And she's so patient with that. Some way, somehow. Me, I'm just like, okay, y'all know how it goes. All right. So this morning, I want to share a thought with us, because I realize and I recognize that this is a holiday where we like to take moms out to eat and all that kind of great stuff. And if I don't get y'all out of here on time, you're going to be in line with everybody else. And so today I'm going to do us a solid, and I'm going to get us out of here before everybody else. That's the goal. All right. I'm going to do us a solid. All right, here we go. 1 Samuel chapter 1. 1 Samuel chapter 1. And I'm going to read all of the verses so that we can have the context of the text, but I'm only going to deal with a couple of things within the text, and then I promise I'm going to let you go. Verse number 9 starts out this way, of 1 Samuel chapter number 1 and verse number 9. Once after a sacrificial meal at Shiloh, Hannah got up and went to pray. And Eli, the priest, was sitting at his customary place beside the entrance of the tabernacle. Hannah, verse 10, was in deep anguish, crying bitterly as she prayed to the Lord. And she made this vow, O Lord of heaven's armies, if you will look upon my sorrow and answer my prayer and give me a son, then I will give him back to you. She says, God, if you give it to me, I promise I'll give it back to you. He will be yours for his entire life. And as a sign that he has been dedicated to the Lord, his hair will never be cut. So as she was praying to the Lord, Eli watched her, seeing her lips moving but hearing no sound. He thought, she has been drinking. Had to have been. Must you come here drunk, Eli says. He says, throw away your wine. But I like her response. She says, oh, no, sir. She replied, I haven't been drinking wine or anything stronger than wine. Don't y'all like that response? I haven't been drinking wine or anything strong, so there's something. Anyway, I got a kick out of that. But she says, I want you to know my situation. I am very discouraged, and I was pouring my heart out to the Lord. Don't think I'm a wicked woman, for I've been praying out of great anguish and sorrow. So here, in this case, now that he has an understanding, verse 17, in that case, Eli said, go in peace. May the God of Israel grant the request you asked of him. Verse 18, she says, oh, thank you, sir, she exclaimed. Then she went back and began to eat, and she was no longer sad. Verse 19 and verse 20, the entire family got up early the next morning, went to worship the Lord once more. Then returned home to Ramah. When Elkanah slept with Hannah, the Lord remembered her plea. And in due time, she gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, for she said, I asked the Lord for him. This morning, I just want to talk to you very quickly from 4 words. Don't give up now. Don't give up now. I want you to imagine I want you to imagine yourself sitting in the back of a dimly lit, bustling room, filled with the noise of a joyful celebration, yet feeling completely and utterly alone. I want you to imagine that. And then I want you to put yourself into this text in 1 Samuel chapter 1, where you find Hannah at a moment when her personal despair stands in stark contrast to the festive atmosphere of the communal worship in the communal worship feast in Shiloh. Everybody around her is happy, and yet she is in despair. Everybody around her is celebrating, and yet she feels like she's missing something. And every single year, without fail, Hannah has made this journey with her family. A journey marked not just by the mileage that it takes to get to where they were going, but by the weight of unmet expectations and unfulfilled dreams. Here's Hannah saying, God, I've always wanted this. I've always wanted this, but God, you have not shown up for me the way that I thought that you would, but I'm not going to stop trusting you now. God, I'm just going to keep asking, and I'm going to keep asking because I know, God, that you're able. There's somebody in here today who just got the message of the morning, and that just simply is, just because you don't have it now does not suggest that you won't get it, but you have to be persistent. If you believe that this is God's will for your life, persistence is the key. Keep talking to God, keep asking God, keep petitioning God. Don't let up now just because you don't have it at the moment that you think you need it. So what are you saying, Jeremy? In today's society where the desires of our hearts are often hidden behind the curated facades we present to those around us, Hannah's story breaks through the pretense of what's happening here. Her story, understand, it asks a penetrating question, not just for her, but for each and every person that's in this room, that should land for you. If you're really in the room with me, if you're at home with me, this question should land for you. The question is, what do I do when the deepest cries of my heart are met by the silence of God? What do I do? What am I supposed to do? Where do I turn? Where do I go? When the things you long for most remains just beyond your reach? What do I do? What do I say? How do I respond? Within the story and within your Christian journey, we understand that Hannah's story is not a tale of ancient pain. It's not a tale of ancient prayer, but it's a reflection of some of our own inner battles and our silent tears. There are times in your life where you know how to make yourself look okay, but deep down inside, you know for sure, I am not doing okay. Not doing fine. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not how I think I need to be. But through all of that, there is good news for everybody in here. Through Hannah's story, what we uncover is that there is hope from despair, and that there is a promise that God does answer prayers. Don't give up just because you don't have it. Remember, God answers prayer. God answers prayer. Period. We have to get to a point in our walk where we allow God to turn sorrow to joy, teaching us about the resilience of faith, the power of persistent prayer, and the unfailing love of God. And if anybody can show us this, it's Hannah and her desire for motherhood. In your life, a mother is designed to show you God better, to show you how faith can be resilient, to show you how there is power if you just keep on praying, to show you that God loves you in spite of everything else. It is by God's design that mothers are the people who show people, or who show their children, how to see God. I want you to understand that. So here it is in verse number 9 and verse number 10. Here we find a portrait of Hannah's resilience in verse number 9 and verse number 10. And I'm not going to take the time to read it, but one of the things that I want us to understand is that, first of all, we have to be very clear. Hannah is one of two of Elkanah's wives. Peninnah has her own children. So Elkanah and Peninnah have children together, but Elkanah and Hannah have no children together. Hannah is barren, seeking God to change her circumstance. Why is that so important? It's important because Hannah says, you know what? I am going to take control. What does that mean? After the meal, the extraordinary thing that she does is that she stands up and presents herself before God. She says, God, I need to have a personal encounter with you. Standing before God, it would be considered a physical act of determination, which means I'm stepping away from the communal setting and saying, God, I need some one-on-one time with you. And let me tell you something, there's a piece of truth in here that you need. At some point, you have to take control and show some initiative in your spiritual life. Understand that. It's not something that mama can just give you. It's not something that mama can just bestow upon you. It's not something that she can talk you through. At some point, you have to take control of your spiritual life. That's what Hannah decides to do. She says, I'm going to take initiative and I'm going to talk to God for myself and petition God for myself. In essence, what that tells you is that you should never give up seeking the presence of God. During moments of irritation, during moments of despair, keep looking for God. It's symbolic that the text shares that with us, that she stands, because it suggests that she wants to rise above her circumstance. So here's some application that I can give for you this morning. No matter the tension in your life, you must rise up and be resilient and remain faithful to God, no matter what happens. Not only that, but the only way to rise up, because everybody said, well, what does it mean to rise up? The only way to rise up is to put it in the hands of God. That's how you rise. You don't rise, and let me be very clear, you do not rise by taking matters into your own hands. You do the opposite. You think you're going up when you're actually really going down. And for some of us, we don't go up, we don't go down, we just go nowhere. And we try to find the progress in going nowhere. But I want to encourage you today, if you're sitting in this audience and you're saying, I find my life to be going nowhere, let me tell you, you have to take initiative for your spiritual growth, for your spiritual journey, and rise up and say, God, I want to be resilient, I want to be faithful, but God, help me to take the first step. Because the hardest step to ever take is the first one. But once you can put a couple of steps together, and you can put a couple of steps together, and you can put a couple of moments together, there is nothing that you and God can't do when you take that first step. I'll be very practical with you. I'm so nervous all the time when it's time for my kids to start walking. I'm always nervous about that because when they take that first step, I always say that first step is the step that leads to forever. It is. It really is. What are they forever doing? They're forever in something. They're forever pouring out something. They're forever running somewhere. They're forever in places they ain't got no business. I don't like when they start walking. I don't like it. But in this case, from a spiritual perspective, let me encourage you, you have to start walking. You gotta take control and start walking. Here's the Mesa moment that I need to share with you. It's nothing wrong with using your affliction as a tool to push you closer to God. Sometimes your affliction actually helps you take the first step. It helps you take the first step on your way to forever. Verse 11, I don't have time to deal with the vow that she made, but let me tell you, she makes this vow. And vows are not just pleas. Understand that. She's not just begging, but vows are considered to be covenants with God. And so what that suggests to you is, in verse 11, is that true faith involves not just asking from God, but also giving back to God in faith. Does that make sense? So if you're going to have real faith in God, you don't just have faith to ask, you got to have faith to ask and to give back. That's what faith does. So verse number 12, 13, 14, for the sake of time, I'm not going to read those. But she's praying. Eli sees her praying, lips moving. He doesn't hear anything. He says, you're drunk, okay? Let me be very honest with you. Everybody is not designed to initially understand what you're dealing with. Everybody's not designed for that. So when you tell people, or when people see you and they don't understand, don't think it's anything wrong with you. There are just times and there are circumstances that are not designed for everybody to grasp. Understand that. Everybody, in essence, let me be very clear and very plain. Everybody won't get you, and that's cool. You got to be cool with that. Everybody won't understand you, and you have to be cool with that. Everybody's not going to understand your circumstance, and you have to be okay with that. We have to get to a space where we have to be comfortable to where we say, I don't have to explain what God is trying to do in my life to you. This is my journey. Because even when you don't understand initially, this is still my journey. I got to walk it. But for Eli's case, he was open enough to have his accusation and then listen to what's really going on. Let me tell you, everybody needs an Eli. You don't need a bunch of yes people in your life. You need people who would say, hey, is this what's going on? Well, no, that's not what's going on. Okay, well, let me have an ear for you so that I can understand. What are you saying to us? Here is Hannah pouring out her heart to God, pouring out her soul to God in anguish, and she is mistaken for being drunk. Listen, everybody's not meant, and that's okay. How do you know that? Because the text tells us already her mouth was moving, her lips were in motion, but her voice was not heard, which indicates a deeply inward prayer that's not meant for everybody to intake. There are certain things that is going on that only you can tell God, and he's the only one that'll understand. And let me tell you something. When you get to a point in your life where you can pray without trying to be understood by everybody else, you're in a good place. Because the people who are going to understand, God has already placed them around you. He's placed them around you, and he's placed them around you to be of support to you. Understand this. Don't change your prayer just because onlookers don't get it. Your prayer is your prayer for a reason. Don't change it just because people say, well, that don't make sense to me. Because you have to be bold enough within your faith in God where you say, well, you know what? It may not make sense to you, and I'm good with that. Because it's not meant to make sense for you. So don't change your God-given activity just because people disagree with how God is using you. Keep doing what God has destined you to do. Don't change your mind just because folks don't like how God is maneuvering in your life. Everybody is not meant to understand what God is accomplishing through you. Don't change just because of a misunderstanding. My encouragement to you is that don't give up, but keep watching God do God-like things in your life. Don't stop. Don't give up. So you say, well, how does the story end? How does it end? Let me surmise it for you. Once she explains to Eli her situation, once she catches him up to speed on what's going on, Hannah receives a blessing from him, the text says. And her countenance changes from despair and anguish to inner peace and reward. Let me tell you something. There is, and this could have been a Mesa moment if I wanted it to be, there is power and peace that follows surrender to God. Understand that. Power, peace follows surrender. I surrender to God. There is power that comes with that. There is peace that comes with that. Hannah is remembered by God, the text says, and he gives her a son named Samuel. She names him Samuel. Samuel's name reflects her request to God. And so to every mother in the room today, here's your encouragement. Thank God for your daily perseverance that's required to be a mom. It takes, I tell Tam all the time, it takes guts to do what you do. I couldn't do it. I watched her give birth to Travis. Yeah, never in a million years. Can't do that. Can't do that. Can't even imagine me trying to, I can't even fathom that. Thank God for your perseverance. Thank God that you're willing to sacrifice yourself, your life daily for thank you for that. If nobody else has told you that today, let me be the first. Thank you for what you do. But while I thank you for what you do, I challenge you this day to keep going. Don't think that we're waving the checkered flag on Mother's Day. We're actually waving the one that says, go, 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 go. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your family. Don't give up on your church community. Remain persistent. Remain persistent. And so as we celebrate the awesomeness of moms today, let this serve as a reminder for each and every person in here that there is strength found in unwavering commitment to God. There's strength in that. There's power in that. There's peace in that. There is being willing to not be deterred because the Holy Spirit keeps us focused. Let me encourage you. Stay at it. Stay at it. Somebody needed to hear that today. Stay at it. Don't give up. Your time is on the way, but you got to stay faithful. You got to stay resilient, and you got to stay in prayer. We're ready to pray for you today. We're ready to pray for you now. Will you stand with me? Mike, will you sing? Let's encourage.